Morning. So we're trying to finish off Shin Lamed Aleph today. We're up to Seif Ches. We're talking about Bris Milah on Shabbos. We've said previously that obviously Milah is Deicha Shabbos, as we know, but Machshir Milah we said yesterday not Deicha Shabbos. Now the Mechaber says in Ches, Ein Oisin Lo Choluk Ela Kerich Oleh Smartud. You can't make some sort of bandage for the baby. Ela Kerich Oleh Smartud. You can wrap around the Eva, some sort of material, and if you haven't got, then kerech aletzpo derech malbush, you can sort of wrap around your finger, and then by way of sort of a glove or something like that, just around your finger, l'shanos miderech hitzot, to do a shinui of wearing this malbush, this item of clothing, b'chol or maybe derech chotze acheres afilu nishtatfu yachad, and you can bring it by way of a chotze, even though there was no shitufei mavuos, even though there was no eruv. Okay, it says Mishnah Berurah Chaluk, Kein Kis Dochuk Sha'osim U'Machasim Rosh Hagid. It's some sort of bandage that covers the Rosh Hagid Ad Ha'Torah. For Keish Sham Shelo Yachsa Ha'er Lachas Hagid. And you put it on the baby so that after you've done the milah, that it doesn't sort of slip away. The actual flesh, the actual skin, doesn't slip back. Lachas Hagid. Ve'im. Says in the Mishnah Berurah Chavtez, and even if you know about this before the milah, you don't doich the milah, and you're allowed to carry this bandage in a rishus, which is a drabonim. But says in the Mishnah Berurah, to carry this thing on your finger and wearing it as a sort of item of clothing by way of a derech rishus or rabim, osa. Because it's not really an item of clothing, but derech karmelis mitzadeh to rabba lahate. But if it was a karmelis which is rabban drabonon, then it would be okay. Ayin sham. Okay, tes. Bizat, very interesting halacha. Bizman chachmei haGemara, in the time, says the Mechaber of the Gemara, if they didn't wash the baby in a warm bath before his bris, and after the bris, and on the third day after the bris, but mayim chamin, in warm water, in the times of Chazal, that was considered dangerous for the baby. And therefore, the Gemara deals with situations when the bris falls on Shabbos, that you can bathe him with hot water. But nowadays, says the Mechaber, we don't find a need for this washing, this bath that the kid needs. And therefore this child is treated like any other person with regard to a bath, that we can't be Mechal Shabbos for that. Says the Ramah of Medilas Einu, but in our countries, i.e. in Ashkenaz, we still have the minhag to wash the baby before the milah, b'chamin, in warm water, shehu chamu me'esmal, that was warmed up yesterday. So you can't warm up the water on Shabbos, but we still have the minhag to give the baby a bath before the bris milah with water that was warmed up yesterday, so you're not mechal Shabbos. So l'achar milah, and after the milah b'motzei Shabbos, you wait until motzei Shabbos. V'chein im haya yom shlishi lemilasei, if it's the third day after the bris b'Shabbos, v'royim sheyesh tzarich l'rochtzei, and you see that there is a need to wash the baby, mechinim cham b'yom v'roichsim osei b'Shabbos. On Erev Shabbos, which is day 2, the day after the bris, you can prepare the water and then you do the bath on Shabbos. V'chol zeh min hastam. This is all in a regular situation. Avrim royim, concludes the Ramah, im royim sheyesh lachush l'sakana, there's a danger involved. Im lo yirchatzu osei achamila, b'vaday mutar l'rochtzei l'chal v'Shabbos. If there's a danger involved, then of course you can do whatever you need to wash him and to mechal Shabbos to do so. Midi dehave ashach sheyesh b'sakana, because it's any other pikuach nefesh situation. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Lamed Aleph. So the minhag originally, Bisman Chachmei HaGemara, was to wash the baby on the day of the bris, before the bris, after the bris, and on day 3. However, says the Mishnah Berurah, the Nishtanu HaTevaim, but nowadays not, because Nishtanu HaTeva, and therefore the Mechaber says these rules don't apply anymore. That's the Mechaber. The Ramah says, B'Medinas Elu, in Ashkenaz, we still have the minhag to wash. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Lamed Beis, Kolema, Dimkoesenu, in our countries, in Bnei Ashkenaz, af ki ein havlad mesuken kol kach mehem. True, nishtana hateva, and it's not as dangerous as it was in the times of Chazal. Achein al kol panim tzarich god yesh bedav. But nevertheless, there's still a great need to wash the baby before and after the bris, and on day 3. Lefichach al rechitza shekodim amila hinichu al dina de gemara shemutu l'rochzoi bechamin shehuchu me'esman. And therefore, we retain the original ruling of the Gemara that you can wash the baby with warm water but that only with water that was warm the day before. But after the bris, you wait until Motzei Shabbos. So I don't exactly know what the contemporary practice is, but it seems clear from the Mishnah Berurah that the minhag of the Ramah was to still warm Shabbos, water before Shabbos, and to give the baby a bath before the bris, after the bris, and on day 3. Nagim l'roch. So if you shelo yashre sodin b'mayim, make sure you don't soak a piece of material in the water. To shriyoso hikibusoi, because soaking and saturating a beged is a form of kibbutz, of cleaning, which of course is not allowed on Shabbos. It could be through a non-Jewish help, who's helping clean the baby, that would be allowed to saturate the beged. And you've got to be careful also if water has collected in a material, not to squeeze out the water. If the water spilled, you set aside some water, then you can ask a non-Jewish person to bring water that was heated up for the benefit of a non-Jewish person. But don't tell the non-Jewish person to warm the water lechatchila. If you have a child who was sick and then recovered, if a child was not well and then is now ready for the bris, don't schedule the bris for a Thursday. Because we're worried that you might have to come to Chil Shabbos. If you look in 31, he says v'chein le'inyan milas ger. So too with the ger, you want to schedule his milah for a certain day. Don't schedule the milah of a ger or of a tinok for a Thursday, because day 3 after the milah is considered more dangerous, and he needs intervention, i.e. a hot bath or something, which could involve Chil Shabbos. So just avoid it.
So the newborn, then 3 days.
Yeah, no, if he was sick and he got better, then you're now 3 weeks later and you're scheduling the bris, don't schedule it for a Thursday. If it falls on a Thursday, it's different. And they allow it. However, the Achronim allow it. And you shouldn't delay the mitzvah. If his baby is ready, even if it's a delayed bris on the Thursday, we still do it. The implication of the Mishnah is that is the minhag today. I assume that's what we do. You prepare hot water. The implication is that water was prepared beforehand. But if you didn't, the implication is that you don't tell a guy to heat up the water. He hasn't got din really of a sakana, but rather he's got a din of a mitzvah ktas, level 4, not level 3, and that does not allow an issa deraisa of warming up the water, of heating the water. But if the Rofa says he needs it, then for sure you shouldn't be machmir, and you tell a non-Jewish person to heat up the water on Shabbos. Even you yourself, you're allowed to do it. Okay, very interesting case. Can a Moel, nowadays a Moel, how does he train to be a Moel? He does lots of practice. He watches lots of milas, and then he does part of it. There's 3 parts to it. There's the chituch, there's the priya, and there's the metzitza. So slowly, having watched lots and lots, he does one part of it, just the chituch, or just the priya, just the metzitza. But, says the Mechaber, Sif Yud, Adam Shlei Mol La'olam, if you have a male who's never done milah before, Lo Yomel b'Shabbos, he shouldn't do it on Shabbos, Avalim Mol, Kva Pamachas, but if he's done it once before, Mutzulam b'Shabbos, then he's allowed to. So you just need one sort of rehearsal, as it were, to allow you to do it on Shabbos. Afilim hu avi ben. We'll see what that means. V'ayin b'dinei milah b'tur yareded siman reish samach vav. Okay, good. Says the Mishnah Berurah Lamed Vav Lo Yomel. We're worried that maybe he'll mess up. He'll get it wrong if it's the first time. And just the nimtza mechal Shabbos v'nomokim mitzvah, and therefore it could be a shaila of a chil Shabbos. He says in 32 on the previous page, even if you've got an expert moel who's standing over him, still someone who hasn't done a milah before should not try for the first time on Shabbos. So too, if he's never done priya, also lifreya b'Shabbos, he shouldn't do priya. Gam kein mitam zeh. Moel sheba v'omar shekvam kol shemol shekvamol pam achas b'chol. He just comes along, you don't know who he is, and he says, look, I've done a milah once on a weekday. Ne'emon, he is believed, ve'ein tzarech lavi ra, he doesn't have to prove it. B'yerdeh, so siman reish samach vav, kosav ba'agah, shetov lahachmel lechatchila shlo yamulu shnei mo'alim milah achas b'Shabbos. Very interesting. Can you have two mo'alim involved on Shabbos? Now, there's one does the chituch and one does the priya. So he says the minhag is there. It's brought in Yerdeh and Reish Samach Vav that you shouldn't do it. Shezeh Yimul v'Zeh Yifrad. The one does the milah, one does the priya. El Hamal hu atzma Yifrad. But rather the person who did the milah, the chituch, he should do the priya as well. Aval haba achronim kosfu sheyesh lahakel. That we can be maker with this. By the way, the halacha brings that when there's a moel at a bris, all the moelim should go to the place where the bris is and watch him. It's brought in, and that's why you often see lots of moelim would stand by the moel who's actually doing the milah and standing over him. But either way, he says, the Mishnah Berurah says that the meaning in Poland is that on Shabbos you can have two moelim, one does the chituch, one does the priya, zeh chaytech v'zeh pereah, bein b'chol or bein b'Shabbos. So not like the Ramah says in Yerodea, but the minhag seems to be that we would do it, whether it's weekday, whether it's Shabbos, they would divide it up. But don't honor three moelim, i.e., one would do the chituch, one would do the priya, one would do the metzitza. It's rather the guy who does the moel, who does the priya, should do the metzitza. No, somebody else can do the metzitza. It's a separate thing. Okay, then we said that you don't. He doesn't do it for the first time on Shabbos. Or in Yontov, imhu Yontov sheni shel galius b'vada yesh lahakel. If, however, the bris is on a second day Yontov, then you can be makel. If you look at number 35, he says, "Kosav b'bina leitim shekim sheyontov sheni enu misofik shem enu bekim b'kviyas hachodesh yesh lahatzis adovakin shafirim lo yom b'kroyo enu lakalka b'chabura and it's melach shein tzrichel gufa, etc." So Yontov sheni we're makel. Okay, of Yontov Rishon, however, the first day of Yontov, yesh deis ben achronim, there is a debate. Achim hu yedea ba'atzma sheyochol lomol ve'ein moel acher b'vada ein lahachme, and even if it's his first time, he's trained and he learns the halachas and he knows, and now he wants to try for the first time, then if there's no other moel around, yochel limol, he's allowed to go ahead and do it. Okay, and he says also not only on Yontov Rishon, but even on Inyan Shabbos, he says. She'ein lahachim ba'efen zeh, even if it's a Shabbos, he's allowed to do it. Lamed ches, mutar lamol b'Shabbos. Afilu ikka acher de kol zimnin tuva, that you're allowed to, if you've done it once, you're allowed to do it. The mol zimnin tuva, even if there's somebody else there who's done it many, many times, if he's done it once, he's allowed to do it. And then the Ramah finishes off and says, "Afilu of imhu av haben," even if he's the father. Pirush, what does that mean? La'fukim imadis v'relei da'av ba'atzma lo yomel b'Shabbos heichadika achrina. Because there is some who are of the opinion that if the father is there and there is another moel, better to get another moel to do it on Shabbos. Why? Mishum delagabi didei have a psik reisha denichle. For the father, this chituch is a psik reisha denichle. He wants his son to be malad. He wants him to have the bris milah. Shehu masaken es benoi. Kamash melon delo aminach. Kamash we don't say this. The gam legabi achrina psik reisha denichle, who is still considered psik reisha denichle for anybody to do it. Why? Shehu roitz elamulu v'lezeh kasi. That's why I came. I'm a moel. I came to do the bris. I want this to happen. Nevertheless, the Torah says you're allowed to do the bris on Shabbos. So that's the end of milah on Shabbos. It's deiche Shabbos, machshir milah, not deiche Shabbos. And what we did today was that if it's the first time, that with the minhag is not to get, he shouldn't do it the first time on Shabbos. But if he's done it once already, then he's got the green light to do it. Different minhagim regarding if you've got two moelim, three moelim even on Shabbos. The Ramah says in your day better not, but the Mechaber says, the Mishnah Berurah says the minhag in Poland was to do two. Yeshua Yaakov says even three, and he says in 34 the Bnei Sfard, the quotes the Orach Sha'adinu shelo yamul al shnaim ela k'may shekos v'Shulchan Aruch. The Sfardim follow the Shulchan Aruch, and they prefer to have one moel doing the whole lot, and not to divide it up when it falls on a Shabbos. Okay.